Welcome back to Killer Stories. I'm your host, Bobbie Holmes. This is part 2 of episode 26, Luka Magnotta. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, I suggest going back and listening to that first. I was so excited to be back after my break that I uploaded last week's episode early. So now I'm getting all these messages wondering, where is part 2? Sorry to leave you guys hanging like that. Typically, my episodes will be posted on Wednesdays. To recap part 1, when videos are uploaded to YouTube showing a guy torturing and ultimately killing cats, a group of internet sleuths work together to track him down. Through a tremendous amount of time and effort, they figure out that his name is Luka Magnotta and he lives in Toronto, Canada. They get as far as being able to find his exact address. When local police go to question Luka, they find that he has fled Toronto. A journalist in London wrote an article about the latest animal cruelty video, and it just so happens that Luka is hiding out in London. What a coinky-dink. I personally don't think that is a coincidence at all. I think he got off on the fact that an article was written about him. Then he fled to London, where he sent the journalist a tip as to where he was staying. When approached, Luka appears angry and denies any involvement. But shortly after the altercation, journalist Alex West received an email. The email from the suspect basically stated that his next video will be of him killing a human, not pussies, as in cats. He boasted about how hard people are working to catch him but haven't been able to find him or name him. And that's how I ended part 1. Now that you're all up to speed, let's jump into today's episode. After a period of silence from Luka, a new sock puppet account commented on the Justice Group's page. The comment was, Body Movin' 99. He was calling her out. This fake account was brand new, and the only activity was a like on a YouTube video. This video was a slow walkthrough of the casino where Deanna worked. So Luka knows that Body Movin' is Deanna Thompson, and he knows where she works. Deanna tried not to freak out, but this is a guy who just stated he was planning on killing a human, and here he is saying, I know who you are and where to find you. She was constantly looking over her shoulder. She actually had to tell her boss what was going on because she felt like he and her coworkers could be at risk if Luka attempted something while she was at work. Deanna was experiencing high anxiety and paranoia, but weeks went by without any further threat from Luka. One morning, John Green is woken up by a Facebook notification. He has a message with a link to a video. Most of the links have just been to YouTube, but this link was to a site called bestgore.com, and there's a warning that pops up stating that the video is extremely graphic. The video was called One Lunatic, One Ice Pick. Just like the previous videos, the camera is pointed towards the bed, but this time there was a man laying there. He seemed to be unconscious. On the wall behind the bed was a poster from the movie Casablanca. True Faith by the band New Order played in the background. In steps a tall, lanky man wearing a dark-colored hoodie. Just like before, the hood was up, mostly concealing his face. He sits beside the man on the bed and pets him like an animal. Exactly like Luka did in his cat videos. He would play with them before the torture began. Then he steps out of the frame and returns holding an ice pick. He begins stabbing the man in the chest over and over. A puppy can be heard barking in the background. Then a small black and white dog comes into frame and the suspect is holding a knife. Deanna and John Green knew it would come to this, but still couldn't believe what they were watching. They just witnessed a murder. The logical thing to do when witnessing a crime is to report it. But to who? At this point, they have no idea where Luka is. The only police they've been in contact thus far was in Toronto. John Green sends the link to a detective explaining that they are 99% positive this is Luka Magnotta, but they get no response. Nothing in the news surfaced about a murder either. They can't just sit back and do nothing. So once again, they examine every detail of the video. Nothing is leading them to a location, but the song playing in the background did sound familiar. The extreme narcissist that he is, Luka also makes montage videos of himself using his photos set to music. He used True Faith previously. Deanna decided to revisit those videos for any new clues. A new montage video had been posted, and there was a photo that they'd never seen before. In the photo, they see street lights, and he's leaning against a set of stone steps. The streetlights weren't your typical yellow ones. They were black and square, which were unique to Montreal. John and Deanna worked together to virtually walk up and down every street via Google Street View until they found the stone steps. They were out front of McGill University in downtown Montreal, Canada. Deanna and John were watching the Montreal news closely, and finally a story popped up where an apartment building janitor found a torso in a suitcase. He was taking out the trash and noticed that a gray suitcase was sitting beside the dumpster. It had a lock on it, and maggots were crawling out of the seams. I would never, ever open a suitcase that smelled like death and is covered in maggots. But he said he was curious. Inside was the body of a white male. No head, no arms, and no legs. The Montreal police arrived, followed by the media. Behind the suitcase were piles of black garbage bags. There seemed to be a dark liquid seeping out from underneath. The police open each bag and collect items as evidence. Some of the bags had perfectly good items in it, things you wouldn't expect to be thrown away. A couple of pairs of shoes, a yellow t-shirt, and a Casablanca movie poster. A wine bottle was also collected as evidence. Remember the puppy dog that was shown at the end of One Lunatic, One Ice Pick? Well, this suspect also killed the dog and disposed of it inside of a garbage bag. Then they start finding more evidence to support the murder of the male victim. A bed comforter with bloodstains. A long screwdriver that was spray painted gray to resemble an ice pick. A knife and a saw. Then they finally found the rest of the man's body parts. Well, sort of. They found arms and legs. No head, no hands or feet. For Luka being so careful to cover his tracks on the internet, he was pretty careless with this murder and disposal. Not only did he just throw the body right outside of his own apartment, but in the same garbage bags, the police found mail with his name on it and his driver's license. Luka Magnotta. Pretty freaking stupid. Unless he wanted to be identified. He wants his name and picture on the 6 o'clock news. If he can hide from John and Deanna, I'm sure he thinks he can evade the police too. But the Montreal police didn't know anything about Luka. They thought perhaps it was his body in the suitcase. A piece of the mail found in the trash listed his address, apartment 208. Police go to the apartment for a wellness check. No one was home. Nothing looked suspicious other than smelling like it was freshly cleaned, which is always suspicious. If a body surfaces and their apartment smells like bleach, you have found the crime scene. The apartment building luckily had 2 security cameras that were able to help figure out what happened that night. One of the cameras was in the basement where the tenants took their garbage. Around 2 a.m., Luka can be seen walking in wearing the same yellow t-shirt that was found in the trash. He throws one item into the bin, then again and again, throwing away just one item at a time. This goes on for hours. The second camera shows people entering and exiting the front doors of the building. The day of the suspected murder, Luka can be seen entering with another man around his same age. Luka was in a white V-neck shirt and black sweats. The man he was with appeared to be Asian and was wearing a yellow t-shirt. The same yellow shirt that Luka was wearing later in the basement and then ultimately found in the trash. Later that evening, Luka exits the building alone, wearing the yellow t-shirt. He returns carrying a shopping bag, probably some last-minute cleanup items. As he enters the first set of double doors, he looks to his left and checks himself out in the mirror, basically striking a pose and running his fingers through his hair. He just killed a man, not a care in the world, stopping to enjoy the view of himself. Narcissistic prick. The detectives weren't immediately aware of the one lunatic, one ice pick video. When they watched it through to the end, they could see a man in the bathtub, decapitated. The suspect was holding his head and turning it back and forth. They were able to confirm that the victim was an Asian male. They ran a search of missing people and found a match for that age range, gender, and nationality. His name was Jun Lin. A friend of Jun Lin's became concerned when they couldn't reach him for a few days. He went to visit his apartment and found Jun's cat alone and hungry. The kitchen made it seem like he was about to make dinner and then never returned. Something seemed very wrong. He heard about the body found on the news, and there was a rumor buzzing about an explicit video of someone being murdered. He reluctantly skimmed through the video until the end where he could see the victim's face. It was his friend, Jun Lin. Police go to Jun's apartment to collect DNA to compare with the body, which eventually does confirm his identity. The day after discovering the torso in the gray suitcase, the Conservative Party headquarters in Ottawa received a blood-soaked cardboard box. Inside was a severed human foot. It also contained a handwritten poem. Quote, "Roses are red, violets are blue. They will need dental records to identify you, bitch." Unquote. A Montreal investigator was able to track the post office where the package was mailed out and check the security cam footage. They spot Luka standing in line, but he isn't holding just one package. He has two. He sent a foot to the Conservative Party, and shortly after, the Liberal Party received their package, a human hand. Luka is obviously desperate for media attention. It wasn't enough to post a video of committing murder. He mailed body parts to freaking government officials. He's completely insane. Police know their suspect is Luka Magnotta. He hasn't returned to apartment 208, so their next stop is his mother's house. In the middle of the night, Luka's mother, Anna Yorkin, was visited by police. They were looking for Luka, but they wouldn't tell her why. According to Anna, when they discovered he wasn't there, they left without explanation. Police were finally searching for Luka, but the justice group wasn't able to just sit back and watch. They felt like they needed to help find Luka, and fast. They know all too well how it feels to be so close and him escape their grasp. Deanna started thinking of clues from the video. The little black and white puppy. Where did he get it? It's pretty common for people to give away free puppies and kittens on sites like Craigslist. Deanna and John had hundreds of documents containing information from Luka's sock puppet accounts and the comments that they would make. They found it pretty easy to pick out his writing style. He used the same words and phrases over and over, and he wasn't the greatest speller either. An ad for a man who was looking for a puppy caught her eye. He mentioned that he had a small apartment, but he was good with animals because his family owned a pet store. Deanna remembered that phrase being used by Luka before, and she immediately knew this was his ad. Another common use for Craigslist, hooking up, the OG Tinder. It's also a good place to meet murderers like Luka or the Craigslist killer, Philip Markoff. But that's another episode. Since they found Luka on Craigslist looking for the puppy, why not see if that's how he and June Lin ended up in each other's company that night? June Lin was gay. Not in the closet, but not shout it from the rooftop gay either. As an international student from China, he felt more comfortable in Montreal being himself than he did at home. The area is pretty liberal. June responded to an ad looking for a sexy guy, which is a term that Luka always used, although he was usually referring to himself. He wanted a sexy guy to be in a video that he's making. The person who posted the ad let it be known that the movie was for personal use, but he wouldn't be sucking any cock. The interesting thing about that is, Luka was bisexual. Before his big-time modeling career, he worked as a male escort. Remember this for later. Anyways, June Lin wanted to be his sexy guy. If he only knew he was volunteering to be murdered. The wine bottle found in the trash had residue of a sedative inside. The same sedative was found in June Lin's system. In one lunatic, one ice pick, June seemed unconscious, and I sincerely hope that that is the case and he felt no pain or suffering. Something else from the video stood out to Deanna. That song playing in the video, True Faith by New Order, it still struck her as important. American Psycho was one of her favorite movies. She remembers the opening scene where Christian Bale's character, Patrick Bateman, was at a nightclub with his friends and that same song was playing. Luka obviously related to Patrick Bateman. Both are ridiculously vain and find enjoyment in harming others. Deanna needs to quit her day job and become a detective. She stumbled across a blog post written by Luka 3 years prior. It was all about how to make yourself disappear. Step 1, cut ties with all friends and family. Step 2, liquidate all funds and assets to cash. Step 3, get a fake ID and passport. Assuming that's exactly what Luka was doing this very moment, the group began trying to figure out where Luka would be headed. Luka loved the chase and often left clues. John Green thought back to the movie poster of Casablanca and the famous phrase, "We'll always have Paris." Authorities start viewing the security footage in the airports. They spot Luka wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt and a really cheap black wig. He had boarded a flight to, you guessed it, Paris, France. The detectives on the case call Paris police to inform them of a murderer who recently landed in Paris and believe there's a chance that he would kill again. Where to begin trying to track someone down in a city as large as Paris? They called around to hotels asking if a reservation was made for a Luka Magnotta. Crazy as it seems, Luka made a reservation using his real name. Maybe he forgot step 3 of his own instructions for disappearing. Authorities were waiting for him to arrive, but he must have sensed them on his tail because he never came to the hotel. The French media dubs Luka the Butcher of Montreal. He becomes front-page news there as well, and everyone is on the lookout for this maniac. Meanwhile, in Canada, the media is all over Luka's family, which is essentially just his mother, Anna Yorkin. There is no mention of his father or any siblings in the documentary. I'm just going to come out and say it. Anna is crazy. She's so delusional. I'm not sure how I would react if I found out my son was doing the disturbing things that Luka is suspected of, but there had to be clues during his childhood or adolescent years, strange behavior that is typical of serial killers. In the documentary Don't F with Cats, when Anna is being interviewed, she is showing off some items gifted to her from Luka over the years. One was a keychain. It was a picture of Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas in the movie poster for Basic Instinct. She said he loves all kinds of movies and she thought this gift was sweet and kept it. Loves all kinds of movies, huh? Like Casablanca? Yes, actually, Casablanca was in his DVD collection. Anna, have you seen Basic Instinct? Sharon Stone's character brutally kills a man during sex using an ice pick. That sounds super familiar. Luka didn't have an ice pick, but he spray painted a screwdriver to look like one, obviously trying to recreate a scene from one of his favorite movies. Anna is in complete denial. She says Luka is innocent. Apparently, he is being set up by someone she refers to as a puppet master. I will discuss Anna's theory about who is really behind these crimes next week. I'm sorry, guys. There's just so much more to go over that I need a third episode. Please don't hate me. I would totally just do one long episode if I had the spare time to do the editing. That's the most time-consuming part of podcasting. I do what I can, but as a full-time working mom, I don't have a ton of free time. Plus, right now, my son is a stage 5 mom clinger. I can barely take a shower without him ripping the curtain open needing me for something. But like everyone tells me, he won't be this little forever, and if he needs his mommy, I'm here for him. I promise next week we will wrap up the story of Luka Magnotta. The sources for today's episode can be found on the show notes. Keep sending those story suggestions to killerstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again to Selena Magnotti for suggesting Luka. You can find me on Twitter @KillerStoriesPC and on Instagram and TikTok @KillerStoriesPodcast. I recently deactivated my Facebook account and it's actually been really nice. Sorry to those who don't have the other socials, but Facebook is toxic and life is better without it, at least for now. Maybe someday people will learn to play nice. If you are enjoying Killer Stories, I have 2 favors to ask. First, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please, yes, I'm begging, please leave me a review. I'm getting so many new listeners, but haven't had a new review in months. It really helps the podcast continue to grow. Secondly, go to buymeacoffee.com/killerstories to give a one-time donation. It's set up in increments of $5, as if you're buying me a coffee